TDR program working for you?
So far, nobody's taken advantage of it.
Do you have a mandatory requirement or?
No, not like Calvert County does.
We're amending the zoning ordinance decisions should be, or not the code of Cecil County and the zoning ordinance, I should say. A decision will be made on August 21st commissioner meeting to create essentially a bank which would allow the county to buy and sell transfer development rights, so that we can act as, it will preclude private transactions from occurring outside of that, but it will allow us the opportunity to get into the market to purchase and sell if that need arises. We heard that was a need.
Preservation program of your own.
Yeah, we already have the purchase and development rights program, and now this is adding that as another avenue to pursue.
Right, and the thing in dealing with the buyers, the development community, was the whole premise that they need protectability from the technical advice, technical advisory once they enter that stage to record the plan, that nothing changes. So the idea was the county was going to kind of act as the hand holder through the process. And that's
some of the county does something similar.
The landowners and the developers that we met with both ends of the spectrum, the common theme that kept arising in those meetings was that they would prefer to deal with one entity on both the sale end and the purchase end, so they could have some certainty as to what they're dealing with rather than trying to deal with multiple partners and multiple prices.
Yeah.
So that's why Commissioner Mullen decided that that might be the way to go. The other issue that Tony has pursued, and he's gotten some uncertainty in the response, is the issue with if you do the minor subdivision, you're precluded from doing major subdivision in the tier 3, 2 and 3, and that issue was something that.
A little confusion there, right, with the answers.
When one's yes and one's no, yes.
Check both, and we both check both times with the legal advice on that. The last one and is that no, you may start with a minor, and if you go to a major and it's eligible for a major, yes, you follow that process and you make a partial. Now to what that would allow, by your
county ones.
Yeah.
Well, right now, because in the bill, it says that in 2 and 3, that if you, along with obviously with 4, but in 2 and 3, that if you do the minor first, you can't do the major. And that's what the confusion is coming in.
There's another section in the bill. I don't have to go searching for it now, but
that's fine.
it is there. Like if section H through I, then you go to J or whatever. There's a little confusion there, but yeah, exactly. The answer was last from legal counsel. Yes, you may, provided that it fits with your zoning ordinance and the parcel.
Provided that's what he's still there.
I would say, is that something we could maybe get in writing then?
Yep, yes,
so we can answer that question with confidence when people come to us?
That is actually still on the clipboard to be checked off, to be done. That is on the list. There's lots of things on there. Everyone is just pulling their hair out right now with, Maco's down there, they're doing different things there, not to make excuses, but we have a lot of these also seeing questions or similar questions from other counties. It is there, trust me. I'm pushing for it. There's other, even smaller, minor things that it's hard to get an answer out of legal counsel sometimes. So, but yes, we will get you that clear, ready, and get it from the top. It will be from the top.
If the landowner does a minor subdivision in tier 4, and they subdivide one lot off, does that preclude them from coming back and doing another minor subdivision at a later time?
Another lot?
Yes.
No, sure.
I think it goes up to the major minor
split.
5.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would, if it was one lot at a time, up to the max of 5.
Right. That's what's in the law.
And I'm not sure, maybe another thought that the county might want to consider is, well, you have this purchase development right TDR program working that you're doing now, which is good, going from, say, a tier 4 area to a tier 2-1 area. If you couldn't adopt the tier 4, in essence, TDR program that's in the bill, that allows a transference from one ag or forestry property to another in Tier 4, so that you could use that leverage there to shift. You know, I'm a farmer and you're a farmer and you want to go to Dodge and I'm willing to stay here. Well, you know, I might want to sell you my development rights, and so therefore you can go up to that max of 15. And the max of 15, I guess, is basing on the fact of what, I don't know if the 15 is a number that's tied to the max of 7 subdivision, you know, minor, maybe, because that's if you don't, you know, if you can go that high. You can certainly go lower, you can stay where you want to, but 7 is the max, so transfer 7 over to a farm that would have the right for 7 plus the mother parcel is 8, is a total of 15. So that might be another element that you could incorporate into the Tier 4, you know, as part of it. But the way the Tier 4 is laid out, like Stephanie was saying, is that PPA, rural legacy, protected lands, which comp plan calls for, your rural zoning, pushes the yellow speckles basically all into green.
Talk a little bit about the PPAs and something that I discovered, and this happened before I became a commissioner. We adopted a new comprehensive plan in 2010, previous board. As part of that comp plan, there was a map adopted with the PPA areas. However, it was supposed to be a placeholder in the comprehensive plan. And the text of our comprehensive plan said that map is, the PPA map is supposed to be further redefined. That has not occurred yet. That unfortunately it's unfortunate in my mind that that map is being used to define what needs to go into Tier 4. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard spot where we have a very preliminary PPA map that hasn't had a lot of scrutiny and had or discussion or public involvement, and yet it's being used to dictate what land goes into Tier 4. And that's very much of a concern. I would prefer for us to refine and further redefine our PPA map before we move ahead with deciding what the tiers are, because it does have an impact.
Yeah, you can do that. Take all the time you want.
I mean,
after December 31st, if you don't have a tier map, you know, put in or approved or, you know, on the books, you're going to be restricted to basically minor subdivisions across the county. On septic. Inside Tier 1, Tier 2 is different, but so that's that process. The other side of this is that while you might be preliminary, and while your plan, if this is your land use plan, 2010 map, you as a county and every county has the right to go back in and change those plans, change those boundaries. Nothing is static. Nothing is in concrete. It's all static. And you can change your tiers based on your comp plan.
John, I wish I believed that.
I know it's a lot of work, but that's the way it will be.
My concern is moving down the road. Once we put it into Tier 4, we'll never be able to get it back out. And I think that presents a lot of concern for me personally, because we're tying up property rights and land values with something that is more permanent than we may want.
The certification, our certification is up in what, 2015? 2015. When we sent a report down, that the PPAs were rolled into our report to state planning. So then state planning and MALF considered, the map certificate, they were considered certified because they were rolled into the report. So one of the things I think we could probably do would be, if we looked at if you look at the PPAs in 2015, and if you were to redefine them, it's okay, well, the target investment there, and to meet that goal may not be achievable if you moved them this way, targeted that investment, and then you build, almost like you do with those mapped rural legacy areas. We just expanded, I think it was 3 years ago, the Rising Sun one, moved it west because that one was pretty much filled up. And then you have people outside of that saying, well, you know what, I'd like to enroll into the program. How do I do that? So the local land trust in the north came and asked us basically, hey, we'd like to expand those boundaries. We were okay with it, sent it down. You guys reviewed it and were okay with it. So just, you know, it just expanded the circle a little wider.
The other thing to keep in mind is that, I guess John sort of said this already, but as the comp plan and the zoning, the other thing to keep in mind is the comp plan and specifically the zoning, the rural resource zoning or agricultural zoning
It's not
is also.
agricultural zoning.
An
Agricultural residential.
Okay.
All right, well, just, we're not gonna
Well,
split hairs,
but-
but let the lady speak.
But here's a big difference between just agricultural
well,
zoning and agricultural
That's fine.
residential zoning.
All right, well,
And there has.
Ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, but that's another factor in determining where tier 4 is. So what's the intent of the zoning districts? The intent is for resource conservation or agriculture. It's by law, it's.
What's the benefit of any to getting this map to you by October 1st?
The idea is to, get the, was to be able to do the reviews and have the final, adopted maps, and the hearings if necessary and all that stuff done by the end of the calendar year. So there's not a huge advantage to it. You're free, it was just, you know, for us to try to be able to, get all the reviews done in a reasonable.
You're kind of doing some of that review right now.
Get preliminary review, exactly. We're trying to get,
And it's
And
not
so-
help
applicable.
facilitate the process so we don't have, you know, reviews hanging out there.
I think what you're talking about is if we do have comments, then there's a public hearing that's held to hear those comments.
Yes.
And for that to happen, the hearing to happen before December 31st, we're kind of backing out a date to October 1st, then we'll be able to get you the comments and you can have that hearing before the end of the calendar year.
If necessary.
How long do you anticipate from the time you receive the map to your comments?
Did we give ourselves a time frame in the guidance
I don't think
document?
we-
I can't
I don't think
remember.
we did.
And I can see a lot of people submitting them in December and you withhold your comments until the end of December or January.
I think we're gonna do our best to turn them around as quickly
Yeah,
as
as
we
quickly
can.
as- right.
And,
For the most part, we've been working too with just about every county.
Yeah.
And so we've already been
We're
working
hoping
through
that
this
it's not-
informally to help, you know, interpret what's here, interpret these things that are on the ground, as, you know, tier 1A, tier 2A, tier 3A, tier 4A. You know, there's a lot of different situations on the ground that the bill does not address. So, we're working through those items, so that by the time they come and present, the county do present their map, that our review should really be very, very short.
yeah, but.
And in most cases, we're hoping that we won't have any comments at all, except to say, good job, see you next
Yes.
year.
Well, that's the point of having meetings like
Yeah.
this, is to try to get.
What are the consequences to a county that provide a map to you that in your mind clearly does not meet your directives?
Say that again, now, what is
If they
it?
submit a
account
map that's inconsistent.
That's inconsistent with the law, so to
Yes.
speak. Well, we'd have to comment on it.
Yes.
We'd go through that procedure as of December 31st, 2012. If it is still not rectified or had not been changed, and that's what you want to move forward with, you may do so. That goes on our record. We had to take that to,
Yeah, there's, I mean, you can't, the only thing that we can do is comment on the maps
Yeah.
and then
So
have the
what are
public
the
hearing review all.
consequences for compliance or the lack of?
Well, there's a report to the
There's-
General
Well, report to the
Assembly.
General Assembly. And so then,
So you say Cecil County's a bad boy?
well, that, if you'd like us to do, no, I'm just kidding, no. Of course not,
So what
let's not
are
go-
the consequences?
We could say any county could be a bad boy.
I understand
because
that.
they're
They're just trying to find out what are the consequences?
The only consequence that I can think of is you got a legislature that might try to fix that situation through other legislation. That's one thing that could happen. And I think that's probably it. Now, if, for example, tier 3, you have more tier 3 than we would suggest is proper. That tier 3, when it would come in for a major subdivision, would still go through the procedures of a public hearing, would still be able to be issued perk permits by your local environmental health director, which is part of MDE. MDE might look at our comments to the situation and say, well, I don't know, we have an issue here ourselves, and we're not sure how this quite pans out for, that's the only other hurdle I think that you would run against, but it's your map, it's not our map, we're not approving it. Any corrections to that, Steph?
And the only other thing that it may happen is we may show our comments on the map. I mean,
Yeah.
it'll be public information, not the comments. But in terms of consequences, what can be built, not built. It's your map, it's yours.
One thing the law and guidance document on is silent right now is what happens after December 31st. We approve our map before then, we send it down to you guys. The guidance document says next time we review our comp plan, we have to put it in there, which is 6 years down the road, for us 4 years down the road now. We're getting ready to change government, go to charter with an executive and council. If we have a situation where a sitting executive comes in and says, I don't like that map that the commissioners adopted, we need to go back and look at that, and they decide to change that map.
What's the process
Yeah.
for readoption?
Yeah, I mean, you guys say, no, you already approved your map, but we're not, you can't do that, or
No,
because it's
we
silent
would-
on that.
It is silent on that, but the answer to that question is that it would have to come through it would have to go through the adoption process.
So it can be
Again,
amended.
same thing, oh yeah, and it could be resubmitted to MVP, and we may or may not comment on it, and the public hearing would have to happen again. It's the same process as the initial process until it gets adopted into the comp plan in the next.
And I suppose too, as you change your sewer water master plan were to change, then this map will change
Yeah.
to that. So it's not a static document, it
No,
will change
it's not.
as you grow.
Yeah, that wasn't
And
clear in
until,
the law
right,
and
it was
guidance
not, it
documents.
was definitely not spelled out, but I've had that question before, and the answer is that it has to go through.
Right. And I'm concerned about the tier 4, tier 3 question. But I'm really, really concerned about the tier 1, tier 2 question. And I understand once these tiers are adopted and become part of the comprehensive plan, they can be changed via a comprehensive plan amendment. But the fact is that the locally developed comprehensive plan, if the county is to achieve its vision of the future, the red areas are gonna have to be converted, or some of the gray areas are gonna have to be converted to red. And certainly that can happen via a comprehensive plan amendment, but it also will necessitate a master water and sewer plan amendment, which MDP has the power to quash, and to what extent, I know you can't answer for the state legislature, also you can't answer for MDE, but frankly, we have a concern, I have a concern that if the proposed amendment conversion of gray to red is not consistent with the Planned Maryland maps, that MDE is going to quash that. And if it happens, that precludes our ability to achieve our vision of the future.
And we've already seen Maryland Department of Environment, Maryland Department of Planning play their hand on the request for interconnections with Charlestown, Artesians, Mountain Hill, and Northeast, and others, just interconnections. Basically, we have all kinds of resistance to water interconnections, which I think are critical to public safety. And we've had denial of our master sewer plan because of those interconnections.
Yeah, the ones that you bring up there, was an MDE issue about quantity of water.
Yeah.
versus the service area, which.
Yeah, but that's not what we
yeah.
asked for.
I
That was not in
understand.
the application. The application was for an interconnection.
Right.
You guys read into it a whole lot more
I
than the
did.
application.
I mean, I thought my review was relatively favorable, but anyway, I won't go there.
Well, at the end of the day, they wanted to know where the water was
Yeah,
going. There was no
yeah,
destination on
right,
the water.
right.
And the concern is that the private utility that bought the water system was gonna pipe it back to Delaware.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
That was the genesis of that.
Right, that was their concern. It was the quantity of water going to, they didn't know where, and
Most
the
people-
answer wasn't clear enough for them, other than it was going to your growth area, it was going to your emergency needs, it was
Well,
going
and
to.
what they asked is they wanted to know the delivery of service, and they wanted to know what was planned in that
Correct.
area.
Yeah.
So we have to tell them what is gonna happen in that area, because there was no answer to that.
Right, short of me trying to explain that to them from your comp plan and your water and sewer plan and the game plan that has been talked about over and over infinitum with them and with the wall.
No, but
It's not
Tony's concern.
specific enough.
Tony's
Yeah.
concern is that Maryland Department of Environment, Maryland Department of Planning can find other ways to object to growth through permits and master water and sewage plans approvals if the mapping is to their satisfaction.
Not in tier 1 and tier 2,
Right, so
which is
it's-
where your water and sewer is.
You're talking about a tier 2 area, in other words,
Yeah.
an area planned for service being, having service actually extended there and doing a master water service plan.
Yeah. No, there
And that-
should be no problem there. No,
Right.
and Plan Maryland doesn't claim the plan consistency, it's your plan consistency with your growth goals. So Plan Maryland map will be, you'll have your 5 areas and five more places designated. That's not a item that the water and sewer master plan would use to evaluate consistency with your comp plan.
Jurisdiction maps the planning,
Yeah.
not
No. So there shouldn't be that conflict there. Now, the other part, going back to this adoption, there's many places, when you get ready to put it into your comp plan, that's a formal adoption. This doesn't necessarily, this initial stage does not necessarily have to be a formal adoption. There's some places that the planning director can approve the map, sanctioned by, yeah, that's good, send her on through. And that is the map that you're presenting to the county. So it does not necessarily have to go even across county council or through, you know, the executive director. It could go through Tony, it could go throughout. As being an approved map, that this is what we're submitting, and that's that. It stands until you all change it. Once you put it into your comp plan, it stands until you change the comp plan. And it should match your comp plan. That's why in our review, why we always go back to the current comp plan to help these counties guide their decision-making on these tiers.
And the vast majority of the criteria in Senate Bill 236 mapping criteria is based on either local comp plan, zoning, or water and sewer plans. So it's supposed to be in line with what's been planned for. That was the idea.
Are there any other questions from members of the board or staff?
I have one, sir.
Go
If I may. In guiding folks who have asked me questions, I have a question regarding page 20 on the guidance document. This is regarding the specific restrictions regarding further re-subdivision with minor subdivisions. The 2 bullet points on here seem to be conflictory in nature to me. It says here that the following specific restrictions and subdivision plat requirements apply to residential minor subdivisions in tier 2, 3, and 4. And the first one says on or after December 31st, if a tract of land is subdivided, leaving any remainder parcel of tract of land, the subdivision may not be re-subdivided or further subdivided, and the remainder parcel or land of tract may not be subdivided. Then I'm going to skip to the second bullet that says a tract or parcel of land may be subdivided over time if each time a new lot or parcel is created, the subdivision plat that states the total number of new lots, plats, building sites, or other divisions remaining. To me, those are conflictory, and I've been asked by folks, which one is it? Because I'm a farmer, I'm getting ready to give, I have 2 sons, I'm getting ready to create a lot for one of them. Do I have to create them both now? Or can I wait on the other one? Do I have to do what the first bullet point says, or can I do what the second bullet point says? Same thing, I've had someone approach me and says, my well is failing. The only available spot for a new well is on my neighbor's property. This says there's no further re-subdivisions, there's no further add-ons or taking and transferring. Or is it the second bullet point that I can still do that? And so trying to guide some of these people on the boots on the ground questions, I'd just like some further guidance on that.
That goes to my original question. If you do a minor subdivision in Tier 4, can you do another one? And because I think a lot of people read paragraph 6, and it clearly says no. But then it goes further on down, and it's not clear.
I can see your confusion. I did not. All I can tell you, what I related to you earlier was from conversations that I had regarding specifically your request. And that was just a week ago. So how this makes sense to what I said and to what I've heard, I've got to question it. So I need to go back and get you an answer more specifically as to what applies here and what doesn't, and what's real. Because as I read through this on the subdivision side of things, is that you may re-subdivide your remainder parcel in certain situations, up to certain degrees, you know, to what that tier permits and that zoning allows. The first one that goes down and continues to read on to, it doesn't apply if it's inside the priority funding area.
But what I think it's intending, and I could be wrong, so we do have to check this. I think what it's intending is that if it's subdivided, and if it's subdivided to its full potential and there's a remainder parcel, it shouldn't be re-subdivided. I think that's what it means. If it's not clear, then we can try to clarify.
Oh,
remainder parcel.
Yeah,
cannot be
it's,
subdivided.
it means that if it's been fully subdivided, there's remainders, there's no potential left.
Right.
Under any, either local restrictions or restrictions under SB 236, it can't be further subdivided. That remainder
remainder
parcel can't be further subdivided.
However,
And the second bullet, it's referring to if it's only partially I think if it's only partially subdivided, you can
continue to that
continue to
limit.
subdivide up until you hit the limit, either of the major minor split or whatever the
Right.
local limit is.
But if you're in a tier 3, and it does say here subdivisions in a tier 3, that if you have a remainder parcel left over, if you did a major subdivision, 1,000-acre farm, and you've subdivided that 30 lots, you did the public hearing, you have a remainder parcel left over of 800 acres. Well, that 800 acres is still a tier 3. That 800 acres is still eligible for further subdivision. Major subdivision up to the point that
Up to the point of the limit, whatever the limit.
of the limit of, right,
Whatever.
that parcel would allow.
Whatever that limit is, if it's below.
So that's the question that you asked originally, that we presented, that I gave you that answer, that yes, you may continue on to that point. This is the limit that when you get to that remainder parcel and there is no more subdivision potential left in it, no, that remainder parcel is finished. You can't continue to subdivide the remainder down to.
How are you going to clarify that?
How am I going to clarify it? As soon as I get the, I guess my check mark comes up on the clipboard to the top and it gets addressed and a letter gets sent out to, because we owe Tony, we owe the department, we owe you that letter to that question. So you'll get it.
The written answer.
The written answer, yeah.
John, did I understand you correctly to say that we could adopt a draft map but not have it as part of our comprehensive plan?
Correct.
Okay. Well,
Until you update your comp plan again, or you could.
It does need to eventually end up in.
It does.
Sure, but
But
it would give us an
initially-
opportunity, I mean, if there are some
Initially,
things.
it's an administrative adoption, right?
Right.
Okay. Because if there are concerns about what that PPA actually should be, And we would have a chance to address that before including it as part of.
It's an
the
administrative
comp.
map until the comp plan is updated in 4 years.
That's why I brought up the fact of, when you talked about revisiting the PPAs, is looking at what the goal is within there, and if it's too big, you can restrict that PPA and then work out of that and move forward that way.
We just recertify the draft map, or the.
Well,
tier
it just
map.
really, you just do the PPAs to your point that you brought up earlier. But since what we have to find out is, since we just got recertified, is how we do that. I don't know how we do that.
Dan Rosen, in conversation with him at the Commissioner's request, had said that the priority preservation areas can be refined at any time, and that if they change from what was included with the latest certification, then in 2015, you would just send down whatever it is county government decides they are at that time, and it would be made part of the annual, or the triannual recertification report at that moment. That was his response to that.
Should be able to get that at Mako this week. Your Secretary Hall, I guess,
Oh, yeah,
all
he'll
his
be-
staff.
He will be there.
He'll be there.
A couple of people, a couple of staff members.
Yeah.
Mr. Terry.
I asked the secretary and Chris Josephson a month ago yesterday if SB 236 imposed any new deadlines for those major subdivisions that have received final approval from the Planning Commission but have not yet been recorded. And their answer was no. And one that comes to mind as I'm looking at this map is Aspen Point, which has final approval but has not yet been recorded. And according to this, at least, it ought to be a tier 4. And my concern is not so much the NAR and SAR that are in tier 4, but suburban residential, which is how that was approved, becoming tier 4. The intrusion of tier 4 into some areas that were, for a couple of comprehensive plans now, have been growth areas.
Is Ashton Point going to be connected to the
Yeah, it's
That's what
shown as
we're
a
planning.
future.
Yeah.
Sure,
Future
sure.
service areas.
It's a S2 right now.
Then
that
it's probably, should be tier 2.
Tier 2.
That's the way we had it
Should be
mapped.
tier
Yeah.
two.
It
And
should
this
be a tier
map,
2.
On the draft map.
this
form.
is what I was sort of getting at
Which is
earlier, is
everywhere.
that
Tier
that's
4.
showing
This is 6, you're on the way.
the areas dominated by ag and forest over
Right.
the entire county, and it should be restricted to areas outside of the,
Right, and that's why I brought that mining piece earlier.
yeah, and it-
Because it's dominated by forest, but
Yeah,
it's, to your point, it's a tier 2A.
and we had to show this for
That's why.
the dominated by ag and forest areas for the entire state, including areas of growth areas, because things can change over time. But, it's a matter of sort of what you put on first up top, then second and third. So tier 1s and 2s should go over top of the areas dominated by ag and forest. They should not be impacted by that provision.
MDP folks don't have any other comments or anybody from us. I appreciate you guys coming up today to do this exercise with us, and thank you for sharing your maps with us. And
Keep in mind, they're all draft, and
Right.
it's
Well, ours
the
is a
initial
draft, too.
preliminary review, and,
Right.
Some guys to help you know what our review will probably actually kick back.
I thought it was kind of good you guys are doing it statewide, so
Yeah.
you kind of know what to expect or what's coming.
Literally following the law as strictly as we can via Jason DeBoe's direction. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
I mean,
In English, please.
in English. But Jason was worked with the task force quite heavily going through and trying to, and so we've come up with a lot of these on-the-ground interpretations that, or situations where we go, yeah, build it and address that. Okay, so what do we do? So we're gonna label it T1, tier 1A, tier 2A, it might be tier 2, B, C, and D. In some places where there's different situations for them. So, but we'll continue to help you, and if you have any other questions, we'll get back to you with what we've got. And then, please, if we can help in any way, don't hesitate to call. We're on your side to make it right.
I left this quote
Yes.
We're basically saying that.
for the guy who owns Ramsey, left it to the manager.
And
Now,
overriding all of
we'll
our
get to him to
and
see
then
if
and
we
ignoring
can
all the
utilize his
comprehensive
property.
plan.
As I said before, they're supposedly going to build on it. We don't know when. Get the manager to so if you could get in touch with him, as soon as you can. Hey, Jack.
Jump out.
You know, the property east of Williams is in Delaware.